Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, September 4th, North Middlesex Council meeting. It is 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. This time roll call. Everyone is present. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. If you have any, please forward it to our clerk. Minutes of the previous meeting from August 14th. Any business arising or errors or omissions in those minutes? Seeing none, a motion to approve the minutes. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councillor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, we need a motion to go into committee of adjustment. 601. Councillor Daigle, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. Our first item is a notice of public meeting to consider minor variance application MV 13-2024 located at 35963 Grand Bend Road. Kristen and Tim Hofstra. Are they here? Here, would you like to come up to the penalty box? Welcome. Okay, Ashley.
Perfect. Thank you. So the subject lands are located on the curve of Grand Bend Road, just outside of the hamlet of Corbett. The property is approximately 1.19 acres in size, and there's currently a raised ranch style single detached dwelling and a garden shed on it. The property owners are proposing to construct an accessory structure for personal storage purposes, primarily to store their fifth wheel trailer indoors, for which they require height relief to do that. Additionally, the height proposed will help achieve a functional design that is consistent with the appearance of the existing dwelling on the property. 5.5 meters as measured from the grade to the peak is the maximum permitted height for an accessory structure, whereas 8.6 meters is proposed, equating to a difference of 3.1 meters or approximately 10 feet. No concerns were noted by the circulated agencies or by neighboring landowners prior to the submission of my report. And the CBO did note that the septic system location will have to be confirmed at the building permit stage. I'm just going to pull up a building rendering for you here so you have an idea. So staff are of the opinion that the four tests of the minor variance are being met for the reasons outlined in greater detail in my report. But generally speaking, it's due to the location and context of the lands, the context of the proposed development, and the existing characteristics of the surrounding agricultural area. And we are of the opinion that the requested variance is minor in nature. So staff are recommending that the relief be granted with the conditions that the relief only applies to the accessory structure proposed on this minor variance application, and that it shall be used solely for residential storage purposes and shall not be used for the storage of home industry equipment.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add at this time? Nothing? All right, I do have to ask if there's any comments from the public on this application. Seeing none, committee questions? Any questions from committee? No questions? Oh, moved by Councillor Irwin, correct?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Notice of public meeting to consider consent application B20-2024 located at 160 Park Hill Main Street. Jamie and Joshua, is it Junka? Okay, would you like to come forward? Okay, Ashley.
Thank you. So the subject property is located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Park Hill Main Street and Ardross Street, and is within the Park Hill urban settlement area. The property is approximately 0.25 acres in size and is currently vacant of any buildings or structures. So the aerial does show some structures on it, but they have all been removed as of June 2024, is my understanding. The property is designated in the official plan as residential, and it is zoned residential density zone 1. The R1 zone permits single detached, semi-detached, and duplex dwellings currently. The proposed severance would create one new residential lot. The severed lot and retained lot would each have a frontage of approximately 25 meters along Ardross Street and an area of approximately 0.12 acres. This exceeds both the required minimum lot frontage as well as the minimum lot area. The owners are proposing to construct one semi-detached dwelling on the severed lot and one semi-detached dwelling on the retained lot for a total of 4 units. The dwellings are currently proposed to be slab on grade, single story, and each unit will have 1 garage parking space and 1 driveway parking space. The owner's intent is to provide a more attainable dwelling unit and anticipate on marketing the units towards seniors or young professional couples. The proposed use is presently permitted on the property, and the subject application before council is strictly to do with the severance for 1 new lot to be created. The application was circulated to all required agencies as well as property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, and it was posted on site as well in accordance with the Planning Act. ABCA noted no concerns, and standard conditions were recommended by the County of Middlesex engineer and emergency services, as well as by the chief building official. The Director of Infrastructure and Operations notes that as a condition of consent, the owner is required to construct new servicing to municipal standards on Ardross Street. There is a municipal water main already there, however, no municipal sanitary, and that will be required to be extended at the owner's sole cost. 2 neighboring property owners submitted written comments and concerns that are attached for the committee's review. The concerns can be summarized by the following: lot coverage and density of the site. So as noted, the proposed uses on the property are permitted and no site-specific zoning relief is currently being requested, meaning they are proposing to meet all zoning setbacks, lot coverage, etc. Traffic and parking. So each unit proposes to have 1 garage parking space, and there will be sufficient space in the driveway for an additional space. This is often why you see the minimum minimum front yard setback of 6 meters in most zoning bylaws, so that there's sufficient setback for a car to fit in the driveway. Compatibility with the existing neighborhood. So I will note that the lot fabrics are generally smaller than what is in the immediate vicinity to the site. However, they are more consistent with recent severances in the neighborhood, and they are considered as semi-detached dwellings to be low-profile residential dwellings in the North Middlesex official plan. As noted, no site-specific zoning relief is being requested. In terms of the affordability of units and the quality of units to be built, these are likely better for the owner to speak to, and individual servicing that will be required for each individual unit as well. So staff note that residential infilling and intensification in urban areas such as Park Hill is encouraged by provincial, county, and local policy. No site-specific zoning relief is being requested to facilitate the proposal, and the proposed use is already considered a permitted use on the subject property. Additionally, the proposal exceeds the minimum requirements of the zoning bylaw for the lot area and frontage. And I also just want to clarify that this application is strictly to sever 1 new residential lot, as the proposed use is already permitted. Staff are recommending that the consent be granted with the conditions outlined in my report. In addition to the conditions in my report, I am recommending that a condition be included so that should a minor lot line adjustment be required to accommodate the county's road widening condition, that this can be completed once the exact dimensions are confirmed by an Ontario land surveyor. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll ask the applicant, you want to add something to this?
Yeah, really determined.
That's about right there.
Yeah, so our main intent with it is to build affordable housing for the community of Park Hill. Joshua and I have lived in the community for about 3 years now, and we see ourselves living here long-term, building our family here. And we see it as an area of opportunity. So when this lot came up for sale, we thought, what better would it bring affordable housing to the community, targeted for seniors and young couples trying to get into the housing market. Any other things you want to add?
No, I would agree with everything.
Okay. At this time, we do have written submissions on this, is that correct? Ashley?
Yes, there are 2 written submissions that were attached for council's review ahead of time. I believe we may have some in attendance as well to speak to it.
Okay, and I will ask that. I hope everyone's seen the written submissions. And at this time, I would ask if there's anyone in the public who wants to make comment to this. If you come up to the mic, please, and give your name and
Good evening, Mayor Rock, councilors, North Middlesex staff, and Jamie and Joshua. I'm David Elliott. Wife Nancy and I have owned 154 Main Street at the corner of Ardross and Main since 1996. We live directly across from Ardross Street, proposed development. In summary, our concerns deal with density, large footprint of this proposed infill project, the change in address, change in the character of this portion of Main Street, impact on nearby property values because of the lack of curb appeal proposed project, traffic safety and park, the lack of clarity concerning the target renters for these units, and a serious issue not addressed by the planning department. We believe that this project is too ambitious for the size of the property. 4 units could potentially involve up to 8 residents or more, potentially 8 cars plus visitors' cars, and potentially 8 dogs on the site. It used to have a single family dwelling. As a close neighbor, we believe increased density of people, cars, and dogs would impact us and our neighbors' quality of life in a negative fashion. Project appears to be in violation of the terms and spirit of County of Middlesex's official plan sections 4.5.3% states that any proposal should be in keeping with density patterns of the surrounding area. Density of this project is certainly out of keeping with surrounding population density pattern, single family house. Section 5.2.1 states that high density residential development to be discouraged. This is a high density development. This portion of Main Street has been characterized by a mix of yellow brick, century homes, ample set, Ontario cottages, other older buildings, and modern houses with architectural value. All of them have the appearance of single family dwelling. As people drive down Main Street, bicycle, see properties with nice lawns and gardens with wide building setbacks. According to drawings of proposed buildings, they would only be 3 meters from the Main Street sidewalk, which would be out of character with ambiance around housing. It's been said that these proposed buildings look like cheap industrial storage units in the strip. According to the drawings have been submitted, Main Street streetscape appearance of westerly duplex would be a blank windowless wall, vinyl siding. They have no curb, potentially negatively impact surrounding property values. This whole project hinges on getting a change of address, 160 Main Street to an address for a minimum required building setbacks on the front property. So they fit proposed 4 units size of lot. Such a legal change of address are unprecedented in Park Hill, especially on Main Street. With one exception, all of the homes along Main Street front on Main Street. There is a home at the north end of the city situated at 12 Main Street. The house is oriented 90 Street, fronts onto a private lane owned by All Seasons Lands. However, that house has ample setbacks, a circular driveway, track landscape. There are 2 commercial properties in Parkville that are oriented 90 Main Street, front on side streets. They have retained Main Street address. They are the Parkville Car Wash, 191 Main Street, Parkville Dentistry, 80. Redesignating 160 Main Street address set a dangerous planning precedent. With a minimum setback of 3 meters from the Main Street sidewalk. This building will smell like sore thumb, but also obstruct the southerly sight of vision along the sidewalk and street for residents 160. Because they would look rather seeing what's further down sidewalk. That's it sitting. There is a program in Ontario to beautify its town's main streets. This proposal there is insufficient park that number of units. With visitors have to park on the street, each unit already has 2 cars. There'll be increasing chances of accidents. With people have to back out, there are dangers on a narrow street. We have had 2 of our family's vehicles damaged by people back out this resident's drive. There are several additional safety concerns. Plans would require the driveways of the westerly complex closer to the corner. The increased number of driveways so close to the section in Ardross would become a problem because residents or their visitors will have to back out. There'll be a shorter sight of vision and brake time for people turning left on Ardross. This proposed change is also contrary to section 4.5.3, which states that building proposals shall not create substantially worsen traffic access problems. There is no sidewalks on Ardross. People have to walk on the street. This is a serious traffic concern. Increased parking on the street, that's a problem. Increased density will need to be aware of safety of children. Little children are now riding their bikes or on the street. Some children are even playing road hockey basketball on the street. There's also a question of quality of life posed tenants and their neighbors. With the increased density, though, for traffic, noise. Jamie and Joshua said to us that they will not allow their renters to have dogs. However, even if the renters are not allowed to have dogs, your sale of 4 units could negate that rental restriction, resulting in a potential number of 8 dog neighborhoods that want. There's also a question about proposed rent clientele. We're told that the units would have about 600 square living space once the area garage had deducted the overall. This is a very small space in which to fit. Might barely do for a couple with no children, but certainly out of the question. This proposal hopes to address the needs of more rental housing. Don't achieve this. Jamie and Joshua have said that they intend to rent seniors. Haven't seen the floor plans. Wonder if they can consideration sometimes wheelchairs and walkers at wider door openings and large bed bathroom required. Sometimes because of health issues, senior couples require 2 bedrooms. Seniors also want to have an extra bed, grandchildren, or even space for Bob works. These units would be too small for them. The small size of the units, will they have space for washers and dryers because there's no public laundry facility park. Whole project is to talk. Senior housing is neat, but I believe it should be away from Main Street where there's less traffic. Here's that the development on West William Street, where there are a number of seniors that have relocated. All of it's their bed. There's another matter that those attached have not addressed. Why? There is an old deep well on the property that has been in since summer last June. Well is said about 6 loads of dirt have dumped down it several times. Safety concerns, even within the last weeks. I personally did. This ever disclosed in the building application or investigated by the planning? I raised this issue with Jamie and Joshua, and they told me that they have proper. The elimination of the well needs to be stipulated in the building environment or potential major sinkhole. 4 units is too much. So many. We're not against severing this lot, but we would prefer single homes on the separated sections, built in keeping with the architectural character of the neighborhood. The readdressing should only apply to these portions. Thank you. Consideration.
Thank you. Is there any other comment from public on this? No other comment. Ashley, can you respond to the well for one thing? And also make comment about the official plan with the county.
Yes, for sure. So regarding the well decommissioning, so we do write all the servicing clauses into the severance and development agreement. And that's something that gets registered on title to the satisfaction of our Director of Infrastructure and Operations. My understanding is because they will have some sanitary connections to be done, there's going to be a lot of back and forth likely with their engineer as well as Jaden. In terms of sorry, what was the second part you were wondering about?
With the official plan, when he was quoting going, that it was opposing the official plan.
Right, okay. So yes, density patterns of the surrounding area should be considered. The specific part of the official plan actually comes in at the local level. So the Middlesex County official plan is more high level and broad to give more jurisdiction to the local levels. So in the local level official plan, they actually do consider semi-detached dwellings as low density residential under the residential area designation. High density residential would be something, I believe it exceeds 2.5 stories in height, and more like townhomes, apartments, that kind of thing. For the purpose of this application, we're talking one semi-detached dwelling on one lot and another semi-detached dwelling on another lot.
Okay, thank you. And we're here to talk about the lots. That's what our goal is here tonight. Is there anything you'd like to add? I'll give you a chance to respond if you'd like to, since we had public talking.
The main thing that I wanted to comment on is the 3-meter setback from the sidewalk. Since we received the outlined conditions of the severance, we noticed that there's that 15-meter road widening allowance. So that has actually changed the setback from the sidewalk for that unit by substantially. So I believe I just got the severance sketch from our surveyor today.
Okay,
And I believe it's moved by 4.9 meters farther to the rear.
okay, so
away
like
from
a
the side.
7.9, that type of thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, and then in his severance sketch, it was in line or in behind the neighbor's porch abutting. So when they're sitting on their porch, they would be able to
Okay.
look up and down Main Street.
No visual obstruction.
Exactly.
Okay.
And our idea is really to make these very nice homes and plant trees and have nice gardens around the outside prior to selling, so that they don't look like rentals, but look like a house that somebody's really proud to own.
Okay.
And that's what our target is. We plan to sell these after. We don't plan to rent it out. we do want to sell these to seniors. And that's our goal at the end of the day. We want to make them marketable. So we're going to make them very nice, beautiful units at a good price point that's affordable. Joshua is a builder and he will be the general contractor for this project. And we've sent work in and he does an amazing job and has beautiful work. I think he's very credible from that point of things. I don't think the structure appearing, it's going to be newer and more modern. That's what it's going to look like at the end of the day, but it's going to be beautiful and it's going to look good because that's what we strive to do.
It'll also be in line, like a lot of Park Hill homes are like single story ranch style. And this is taking that same look into consideration as well. And I believe Ashley has some projects that I've worked on up on the screen as well to sort of show the finishes that I generally strive towards.
Okay. All right. I'm going to turn it over to committee. And so Councillor Irwin, Councillor Keogh, and then Councillor Daigle.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. This sounds very similar to a situation we had last year in Elsa Craig and the lack of urban design guidelines we have in our community. And at that point, we were able to voluntarily commit to some urban design guidelines with the severance. And I think you know where I'm going and you begin to address that.
Yeah.
And then I'll have another point later this evening talking about the status of our own official plan, because that's part of the challenge we have here. I would say, but having some sort of urban design guidelines, even voluntarily committed, and part of this, what we can do, or even if we exceed what we can do, what we agree to it, I think will go a long way to help considerations of concerns of folks in the neighborhood.
Okay. Councillor Keogh.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Jamie and Joshua, the neighbor, Mr. Elliott, had raised concern with this being a senior resident. Have you, in your draft drawings, have you incorporated wider hallways and made this more senior accessible in your planning?
Yes, we're still working on our final floor plans as we've accounted some changes with the setbacks we require now. But we do plan to have all 36-inch doorways so that the building would be wheelchair accessible for a senior, and also like walk-in showers and things like that as well.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Daigle.
Just want some clarification. We're using the word rent sometimes and sale sometimes. So the sale we're looking for is into the two lots, one to house each duplex.
Yeah,
Are you planning on coming back and trying to split the duplexes then?
that's correct, so that we can have an individual sale to individual homeowners.
Okay.
And we really don't want like a large rental company to come in and buy all four and then just rent them out, and we're not looking for something like that.
And that's exactly what will happen if we sell it by each duplex. So yeah, that's we're going to eventually do that.
Other questions? Councillor Connellison.
Thank you. My favorite question, I heard the word affordable a number of times, but affordable is all has different levels to different people. What is affordable for you?
I would say, so I work in the financial service industry. So I've worked with a lot of first-time homeowners. I've worked with a lot of seniors looking to downsize. So really it's a target price that two individuals who are earning an average salary can afford. And that's the price point that we are going for. So our duplexes, each unit is going to range in the 300s, making that a lot more accessible for more local people or more individuals looking to move to Park Hill.
Okay. There was some concern expressed, and I think Councillor Irwin here's alluded to it as well. And if you look at the side profile of your structure up there, and I think Mr. Elliott made a comment on it, that it's just a bland wall. Are you open to changing that and maybe incorporating a window or something like that, make it a little bit more appealing?
Yeah, no problems with that.
Okay. Another question I have is the well decommissioned. Did you have a plumber come out and actually decommission, or was it just filled in with dirt?
We purchased the lot after everything was torn off of it. So we actually just closed
On the August 23rd.
last Thursday or something like that. So we were known about this after closing. And we need to address that situation properly because we won't just put a building on top of a well that's sinking, right? So.
My final question for you, and then I have one for Ashley after that, are you willing to carry the costs of the sewer and wastewater treatment that or sewage sanitary line has to go in there?
Yeah, I read the conditions and we understand that there'll be some costs associated with putting and extending that sewer. Yeah.
Okay. So my final question actually is for you. And as I'm thinking about this process here in this application, I go back to a situation or an application we had in Elsa Craig on William Street. Mayor Ropp will be familiar with that. The distance now with the road widening from the road to the side of the structure, how does that compare to the one on William Street in Elsa Craig?
That's a tough question. So in terms of what the distance will be required here, so we'll require the county road dedication 15 meters from the center line of the road. And then the setback is 3 meters from that 15 meters. So it will be set back from the sidewalk, but that's really something that we'd have to have a surveyor confirm before I can really comment on.
It's exactly or I can send you the drawing if you want.
If you give me a rough idea from the road, not the sidewalk, from the roadway itself to the side structure of the building, what's the distance?
So at minimum, that would be 18.
18 meters?
Well, so it'd be 18 meters from the center line of the road. Let me just do a rough calculation here.
So so from the lot line to the beginning of the building would be around approximately 7 meters. And the lot line is just inside of the sidewalk. So there's 2 to 3 meters additional from the lot line to the beginning of the road.
Right, because you got sidewalk, then you got a bit of a boulevard. there.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
How does, Mayor Ropp, how does that compare to Elsa Craig's site?
I would have to go back and check it, but I don't believe that was I think that's a little closer.
Elsa Craig?
Yeah.
Okay, because we made a commitment not to repeat that mistake.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just to add, so of course, county mapping can't be used in place of a survey. But it looks like from the edge of the road there to where the beginning of the building would start would be roughly 13 meters.
Right. So,
To the minimum 3 meter setback from the edge of the road.
but I think the point you made when you said that it's not going to take away sight lines, people sitting on their porch next door, that's an important piece.
That is important.
Okay. Counselor Nerd.
Go back to add on or maybe get some more clarifications to Councillor Nelson's comment about the side view facing Main.
Yeah.
I don't like that idea. It's quite plain and it looks very industrial, and that's not, as Mr. Elliott had said, keeping in with our Main Street, the look of Main Street. Are you open to maybe bricking that, or are you committed to only the vinyl siding?
We would be open to bricking that, yes. If that would give a more continuous look along Main Street. Like I personally just find that a lot of those old houses on Main Street are getting vinyl cladding over top of the brick over time. That's why we went with a look like this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Ashley.
Just to add to, I believe we could work some of the urban design guidelines into like severance and development agreement, but I can also touch base with county legal to see if there's a standalone agreement that we could do for that, just modeled off of the Elsa Craig one. I think it was from 2023.
Okay, thank you. But what we're dealing with here tonight is the lot.
Yes.
I think there is a lot of work that can be done as far as what's built and going forward, but it is the lot that we're talking about tonight. And so is there any other questions from council? Councilor Canellison.
Just so I'm clear, what we're deciding tonight is the lot where we're not even considering, it'll have to come back with the structure itself. Is that correct? or the building inspector, somebody has to make a decision on the structure itself.
Ashley.
Through the mayor. So technically, if they were to pull a building permit today, with the existing zoning on the property, it would just go right to the building permit stage. It wouldn't come before council for any consideration. Because they're doing a consent, that's why we have the severance and development agreement. But the provincial government did remove, I believe it was with Bill, might have been, I think it was in 2022, actually 2023, but we can't comment on external facade technically anymore, but urban design guidelines can sometimes be implemented in certain cases. And they also removed the requirement for site plan control for 10 units or less. So really the only reason we are able to comment on this now is due to the severance.
Okay. Councillor Irwin.
And that's the point I was going to make. So urban design guidelines will be voluntary on the part of the owners. And we have agreement that we would work something out, but the details have to be developed. Once we agree to the severance, they can build. They don't come back.
Right.
Yes.
So we're asking them to work with staff and to build what's appropriate. That's what the expectation would be. Any other question? We have a recommendation in front of you. What's your wish? Moving the recommendation by Councillor Keough. Seconder,
Can I clarify the motion
I
first?
want to
Your worship?
get a seconder first. We'll clarify the recommended motion. We'll read it.
Clarify the motion. Does that include voluntary urban design guidelines somewhere within the recommendation? So we capture that?
Ashley, can we add that?
Yes, I would recommend that we can add that wording under the severance and development agreement condition. And then just for clarification, the proposed condition, so that should any minor adjustments be needed for the county road dedication purposes, as well on the sheet that I sent around.
Right.
To be included.
Your
Okay,
worship, if
Alan.
I may, there's a suggestion from the planner that number 23 on the recommendation be added. And that is that the owner amend the proposed lot size of retained parcel and sever parcel to take into account the required county right-of-way dedications,
Okay.
as we were discussing earlier there.
Okay.
Um,
Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Mayor. I would second.
You're seconding the motion?
Motion.
Okay. Clarification?
Clarification. This is with the addition of the urban
Correct.
on the motion.
Correct? Councillor Keough? Okay. Okay, yes, it is. All right. In favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next item is 4.3, consent item B6 2024 and B7 2024, located at 11734 Petty Street, conditions update. Ashley, I believe.
Perfect. Thank you. So there's not a report associated with this item because it really is just more administrative in nature. So the committee may recall the consent application for 11734 Petty Street coming before them in June regarding severing a residential lot in Elsa Craig. One of those conditions included that the unpermitted driveway on the severed lot be removed, as there was a reserve over the portion of the property where it's located. After additional discussions between the owner and the county engineer, it was determined that that driveway is now permitted to stay. And as such, county council agreed to lift the reserve off that portion of the driveway so it can remain as is. As a result, this condition is technically no longer needed as the unpermitted driveway is now technically permitted. So the recommended motion is that the driveway condition be considered completed by municipal council. This will ensure a more efficient process for the property owner rather than having to hold a second meeting to remove a condition that's largely null and void.
Thank you. Any questions from council? No questions? You're moving that?
Move the motion, your worship.
Okay, moved by Councillor Irwin, second by Councillor Daigle. In favor? Carried. Thank you. I need a motion now to adjourn Committee of Adjustment, Councillor Daigle, and convene the public meeting. Seconder, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. Next, a notice of public meeting to consider zoning amendment application ZBA 19-2024, located at 31946 Sylvan Road, Portland Farms Incorporated. Ashley.
Thank you. So the purpose and effect of this application is to implement the zoning condition of a surplus farm dwelling severance, which was approved by the committee on July 17th, 2024, to sever a 1 hectare parcel of land from an existing 20.23 hectare farm parcel. The zoning proposes to rezone the severed lot from general agricultural to agricultural small holding site specific to recognize the residential use of the property and the lot frontage, and to acknowledge the height of 2 existing accessory structures. The retained lot will be rezoned from general agricultural to general agricultural site specific to prohibit the establishment of residential dwellings on the farmland and to recognize the lot area. Notice of the application was circulated to the required agencies as well as property owners within 120 meters of the subject property. And it was also posted in accordance with the Planning Act. No concerns were noted by any of the circulated agencies or neighboring landowners, as the conditions in the consent still stand. So staff are of the opinion that the zoning bylaw amendment does conform to the applicable provincial, county, and local policy, and note that all other conditions imposed by the consent still apply. As such, we are recommending that my report be received for information and that the associated bylaw be approved in principle, limited to a first and second reading. Once the registered plan's deposited, the third and final reading will be brought back before council. And again, we've moved to doing it this way so that we can save people a couple weeks' time.
Thank you, Ashley. I don't think we have the applicant online, do we?
No.
No? Okay. And so any comments, any questions from the committee? Seeing none, we have a recommended motion in front of you. Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Councillor Irwin. In favor? Opposed? One opposed. That is carried. Our next item is start of our reports. That's our last planning application, I believe. We have no delegation department reports. Councillor Irwin.
So, your worship, I have 2 questions for the planner, but probably would be under other business, but she probably leaves at this time. So I don't know whether I could ask them now or would just copy them and send them to her later. To planners.
Are these questions she's going to be able to answer here tonight? Or?
Well, I've discussed both of them in advance of the meeting, so she's not surprised by the questions.
Your worship, may I ask that the counselor forward them to myself and
I want to ask them in council.
okay.
Okay, I want them on the record. So I can ask them now, I can ask them on other business.
Ashley, are you prepared to answer the questions now, or do you want to?
Yes, I can answer them now if you'd like.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, go ahead.
First off, as we know at the Association of Municipalities of Ontario meeting, the the provincial planning statement was released and is now public. As it's now public, we have a sense of what is allowed for additional residential units in rural areas. Given that, would council consider going back on their motion from last meeting where we put it off until the official plan and review additional residential units in rural areas since we have a definitive statement from the province in their PPS of what is allowed?
Perfect, thank you. So the new provincial policy statement was released and confirmed that they're going to be implementing it on October 20th. So it's a rather rapid implementation date. Just from some preliminary discussions at the county level, I think it's going to require quite a few amendments, but nothing insanely major. So in terms of local process, that's certainly up to council if they would like to reconsider that. In rural areas, they are moving towards, again, the 3 units on the property. The key difference, I would say, between urban and rural is that they're not necessarily saying that's as of right, but then it is provincial policy that you should be, following. So as it stands right now, people that are inquiring about doing something like that would still require a North Middlesex official plan amendment and a zone amendment to do it, to permit it on a temporary basis until the North Middlesex official plan is officially updated.
Oh,
And I understand 2 additional points. Most of the requests for additional residential units are on rural land properties, and that an official plan temporary amendment would cost the applicant approximately $1,800 to submit. So we're asking for something that they would probably get for an additional $1,800, which will probably be, I can assure, will be in our official plan. And that's going to be my next question.
Perfect. So yeah, so as it stands right now, the official plan amendment application is 1,800. You'd also have to file the associated zoning bylaw amendment application, which would be an additional, I believe, 900 because you have a second application. In terms of where the direction of the North Middlesex OP is going, it's probably a better question for Abby, but generally speaking, like we are considered creatures of the province as municipalities, and we have to follow their policy direction. So I will say that most inquiries I personally receive tend to be for rural areas, for parents that are wanting to kind of age in place and that sort of thing, but urban areas, they're permitted as of right. So I wouldn't necessarily hear from people as often on those.
Yeah, go ahead.
As council may recall, when Abby was here at the last meeting when we discussed this, it's certainly, as has been outlined, it's the intent we have to put in place in our official plan the requirements of the PPS. So this will be put into the new official plan when the review is complete. By moving it ahead would allow for it to be moved up. I would suggest it probably be a year, maybe a year and a half, depending on how appeals we get till it goes into the official plan that's being created by Abby through the official plan review process. By doing it as a standalone, we'd probably move it up by 6 months to a year. We could probably have something like that done in, somewhere in 3 to 6 months. So it's something, it's a time factor as well as a financial factor. I think Abby was open to doing it either way when she was here. That was my understanding. Obviously, she will implement it either way and whatever direction council gave. So it would be just a matter of what timing you'd like to see it under. What I also have asked Abby to do is come forward to this council, provide an update on the PPS changes. She is going to be doing a report similar to that to county council, and immediately following that, which she will be setting up times to come to the local tiers, and I've already asked her to come here. So we could wait for that, or we could ask her earlier to see about making this change as has been suggested tonight.
What's council's wish? Councillor Daigle.
I just wanted it on the record that I have to abstain from this because I was in conflict with the original document.
Okay. Alan?
Your worship. Sorry, your worship, I do have some slight concerns in making a decision on an item that wasn't put on the agenda.
I do have a concern with that tonight as well. I think it's something that I didn't know what question you were going to have. And I think if a little more prepared for this conversation, I think.
May I suggest, your worship, when Abby comes back, I'm hoping it's either the next council meeting or the one following that, which didn't give me a specific timeline, that we can consider it at that time. Then all the information would be there, and the report I could ask Abby to address it as part of her update and a reconsideration at that time. That's
Okay.
appropriate.
Councillor Irwin.
I'm prepared to put it off to the next council meeting, which is 2 weeks, but not the one after that, which is a month away. Because then we're just dragging the decision. So if it's a question of being better prepared and having some information and a formal motion, I would be happy, and let's see what my fellow members of council would feel, to bring this back at our next meeting in 2 weeks' time, not a month from today.
Councillor Keo.
I'd like to add to that. I guess we're at the mercy of our county cohort on this. And if it's going to be a month, that's all we can do.
She works for us. We pay a fee. It could be 2 weeks if we want it in 2 weeks. I mean, frankly, we have the provincial policy statement. It's pretty clear the direction it's going to go. I know that we pay a fee for the planners to work for us. If we want it in 2 weeks, we can ask for it in 2 weeks. I mean, that's the situation.
Okay, but so this is gonna be put off until next meeting. we get a report through for next meeting, all right?
Your worship, I've written it down, asking for it for the next meeting. If anything changes from that, I'll certainly let council know, but I'll certainly ask if it can be brought back to the next meeting and that Abby have a report, even if it's just to this specific thing, which I don't think should be a problem.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, sounds good. All right, we'll come back to the next meeting. All right,
Thank you, your worship. We covered part of the second question. We've seen part of it tonight. Urban design guidelines, additional residential units. My question is, and maybe the next meeting, maybe in a month, an update on the status of our official plan process. And what can we do to expedite it? Because otherwise, we're not going to have an new official plan until the end of the term of this council, I feel.
I think we'll have, first part of that is we'll have to get the update and the projection on it. All right. From there. Okay. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
And we will start with our department reports. And the first one is 6.1 is a report from Arnie Marsman and Chief Building Official. And we have Wayne's, I believe, joining us. Excuse me. Good evening, Wayne.
Good evening.
So we, sorry you threw us off with that one. Is there any questions? Everybody's got the building activity report in front of them. And it's actually, the numbers, the dollars are down, but the numbers are up. Thanks, Ashley. What questions for Wayne or anything you want to add to the report first, Wayne?
Just that construction of residential is very high in LC Craig, and that we expect to continue growth into 2025.
Okay. Any questions for Wayne? Councillor Irwin?
First off, thank you very much for the report, and it's good to see the increase in development. And my question relates to your final comment you just made. Talking to developers, any sense of the increased speed of potential development? We've seen another 25% decrease in basis points in the Bank of Canada rate today, so it's gone down 3 consecutive terms. Is that impacting development? Are we going to see it expedite even quicker from your conversations with developers?
Through the mayor to the councillor, I have not personally been in contact with the developers. That is more of a Arnie area of expertise.
Carolyn.
If I may just comment to that, certainly in my recent conversations with some of the development community, my understanding that sales are up and the spring is seen to be, their indication is going to be very busy.
Okay. Any other question? Councillor Cornelison.
Thank you, Mayor. Wayne, my question for you is the agricultural buildings. I always have an interest in agricultural buildings at 3,543,000. Is that primarily for livestock or is that outbuildings or because 3 million for livestock buildings doesn't seem much these days?
That through the mayor to the councillor, that would cover all agricultural buildings.
But are there still lots of livestock buildings being constructed in North Middlesex is my question, I guess.
I would have to do, through the mayor to the councillor, I'd have to do more digging through the software to decipher which ones were livestock and which ones were farm use buildings like hay storage and things like that.
Okay, you can respond by email later in the week if you wish. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Any other questions? Other questions for Wayne? Seeing none, I guess that's it, Wayne. Thank you very much. We need a motion to accept this report for the first half of 2024. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, Councillor Cornelison, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Wayne.
You too. Our next one is report from Alan, and that's Director of Corporate Services and Clerk Signing Authority.
Thank you, Worship. This is largely a housekeeping report and request. It cleans up some of our bylaws that to name people by their position and not by their name so that we don't have to keep on updating them. In addition to that, it does correct some misentries in our policies for delegated authority, in that the CAO wasn't actually explicitly listed as a signing authority, and I believe that was the intent of that. In addition to that, and maybe the most significant change requested in this is that the deputy treasurer and the deputy clerk, if they are named by bylaw, have signing authority if their superior is not here for an extended period of time.
Any questions? Questions on this? No, we have a recommendation in front of us. What's your wish? Moved by Counselor Daigle, seconded by Counselor Nerda. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next one is 6.3 has been removed. Pardon me, the first part of that, the ice season extension. Brandon.
So Mayor Rob, members of council, as you may be aware, our North Middlesex Minor Hockey Association has partnered with Ilderton Minor Hockey Association as well as Lucan Minor Hockey Association to form a new A Center. That A Center will be the Asable Valley Hockey Association. This is a more competitive hockey that will be played throughout both or all three communities. As part of that, their tryouts need to happen in the springtime. That aligns with our current girls hockey program through North Middlesex, the North Middlesex Minor Hockey Association. All their girls tryouts, currently they farm out to Strathroy in order to have those happen. We've had requests from both groups, as well as Park Hill Skating Club has alluded to taking more ice through the spring if available, as they sometimes go a little bit later. What they've asked is that we keep the ice in until the end of the second week of May to provide 2 weeks in May where they can do their tryouts. Historically, we've pulled the plug as soon as the Stars are done. Typically, that's been around the end of March. So the request being made by multiple organizations is to add about 6 weeks of ice programming. The break even on our hydro for that situation would be around 30 hours of rental per week. Since we've never really explored what ice looks like in April, I'm not sure how many hours we can sell. They are asking for a 2-year commitment. I feel confident that I can get a good chunk of ice back. And I support them in the motion that if we extend it for 2 years to see how our plant reacts, see how our building reacts to spring ice, see how much ice we can actually pull in. It's a good trial run for us.
Brandon, just before I go to council, when the Stars went deep into the playoffs, I know they were quite a bit later. What was the time frame there?
So the Stars season, the way the PJHL has transitioned their playoff from, they used to do a tournament weekend called the Schmalz Cup, similar to a Memorial Cup style tournament. They are now best of 7 all the way through. If the Stars were to make it to the absolute finals, they would finish on May 2-4 weekend.
Okay. But even with a good run in the playoffs.
A good run in the playoffs would take them through the end of April.
Okay. Councilor Nerda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brandon, I have 2 questions. The first one is, when is the naming of the arena going to happen?
So currently we have that agreement signed. They have ordered the signage. Once the signage arrives, it will officially change on the building. I've already updated our Google name to the HMS Insurance Center, and have been telling people that it is the HMS Insurance Center.
Thank you, Brandon. The second question is to extend it by a month or to arena. Do you know what the financial implications of this are?
As I alluded to, I'd have to base it off our hydro costs. That's the biggest kicker. We're about, in a hot month, we're somewhere between $13,000 and $15,000. So you can consider the month of April. If the Stars went to halfway through April, we're paying those hydro costs anyways. Once we get into May, there's additional heat. We're probably somewhere around 20 to 25,000 in hydro.
Okay. Other questions? Councilor Keo.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Brandon, do we have sufficient dehumidification equipment for humid weather in May?
Through the mayor to the councillor, I would say that yes, we do. September lately has been 30 degrees a lot. We've experienced in ice building this past August, we've had humid days while we built ice, and the arena seems to be holding up well. Yeah.
Councilor Cornelison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Brandon, what's the status of our score clock?
Through the mayor to the councillor, I actually emailed Andrew Harris today, the Harris Time president. He said that they're still waiting on it. But they're expecting it at the back end of this week, so either early next or the following week, we'll have the install. As council is aware, the CN Rail strike ended up adding a fair bit of time to their shipping, and they've had to figure that out.
Councillor Irwin.
Thank you, your worship. Through you, I want to clarify the motion. Are we looking to extend the arena ice time second week of May for 2-year trial?
That is correct.
What is,
The motion doesn't read that way. I just added to the motion.
oh, okay,
Because I heard
right,
our director say he would prefer a 2-year trial.
okay.
So I would move the amended motion.
You're moving the amended motion to a
Yep.
2-year trial. Second by Councillor Daigle. All in favor? Carry. Excellent. Our next report is 6.4, and that's report from Carolyn on the Housing Accelerator Fund.
Thank you, worship. This is our second kick at the can, as they might say, to the Housing Accelerator Fund. This is round 2. We've been working extensively with representatives from CMHC as well as the county on this. Abby has actually done extensive work for us on this, and to bring it hopefully in better alignment with what CMHC is looking for on this grant. As before, we must do several of the initiatives that they've outlined in the grant application. And by doing those, which include some exclusionary zoning, ending some of that, looking at municipally owned lands for affordable housing, which we already are doing, looking at affordable housing itself, looking at our parking standards, things of that nature, it would afford us approximately $5.1 million towards projects in wastewater within either Elsa Craig or Park Hill or both, depending on how we want to utilize it. This is not a capital grant, although by doing the initiatives they're asking for, they actually give you capital money. So our fingers are crossed on this one. Bring it forward to council again. As with most grants, they do need a motion from council to allow us to apply, and we tend to apply for this within the next few days.
Okay, any questions on that? You have okay, just a second. There's we did meet with the Minister of Infrastructure and talked about this and touched on that we're reapplying, and she said, don't quit if you don't win the first time, like just keep going because they keep coming out. So, and that was moved by Councillor Daigle, I believe, and seconded by Councillor Nerda. In favor, carried. Thank you. Our next one is from Jaden Hodgins, and that is on the radar speed signs. Jaden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, the purpose of this report is to present traffic speed data from our radar speed signs. For the past several months, we've had these signs installed in the following locations: northbound Park Hill Main Street at McLeod Street, southbound Park Hill Main Street at Park Hill Drive, northbound Petty Street south of Narren, northbound Petty Street south of the town of Elsa Craig, and westbound Elsa Craig Main Street east of the town of Elsa Craig. The traffic counts and speed data is presented in the report, including percentage of speed violations, percentage of vehicles respecting the limit, percentage of vehicles within 10 kilometers of the speed limit, average speed, and 85th percentile speed. So based on the data, it appears that speeding issues continue to be most prevalent at these areas, at the entrances into settlement areas where speed limits reduce. We are now recommending 6 new locations as outlined in the report. And those 6 locations are Elsa Craig Main Street, eastbound at the west entrance of town, McGillivray Drive, eastbound at the entrance to Brinsley, McGillivray Drive, eastbound at the entrance to Lurie, Greenway Drive, eastbound at the entrance to Greenway, Petty Street northbound, the entrance of Elsa Craig, and Queen Street southbound in the town of Elsa Craig. So we decided to mix it up a little bit and maybe hit some of our more rural hamlet areas just to get more diversification for where we locate these signs. So those are the 6 recommended locations, but if council wants to consider amending that list to any other locations, they certainly are welcome to do that. And additionally, should council want to consider purchasing any additional speed radar signs, we did get a recent quote and they're approximately $4,000 each.
Counselor Nerdy, you had a question?
Jaden, you just answered it. So this is not, you're not asking for us to purchase new radars. You're just informing us if we want to, it's 4,000 per sign, correct?
Through the mayor, that's correct.
Okay. Counselor Keel?
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Jaden, I just have, looking through your list here. The only thing I would maybe add to that is perhaps putting the radar signs in school zones, especially with school returning today. Just temporarily.
Through the mayor, that is something we can do. We do have the mobile trailer unit. Unfortunately, it was recently damaged. We're not sure what exactly happened, if it was vandalized, but the screen was damaged. So we'd have to get that repaired first. But that's something that we can do, is look at some shorter term installations of these within school zones before the more permanent installations. If that's
Counselor Canellis and then Counselor Irwin.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Jaden, I'm surprised that there will be no speed signs in Park Hill. Is there an explanation for that? Why Park Hill has none?
through the mayor, we have had speed signs installed in Park Hill for the last 2 years. So previous to the 2 locations on Park Hill Main Street, we did have them on West Park Drive when we had the construction detour for the project. I think based on feedback I've been getting, and I think some members of council have been getting, certainly a lot of concerns around Elsa Craig, Petty Street, Queen Street has been, we've heard that a lot. So we're just trying to focus on that area a bit that seems to be more problematic. And then just looking to mix it up a bit with the hamlet areas.
Well, that's just my point. I'm surprised that we're going to put in Brinsley and Lurie. I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, but nothing in Park Hill. That's kind of surprising. I have to say I'm disappointed, you know?
So just comment to that, then council would have to, I think maybe look at whether they should be purchasing of 2 or 3 more signs. If we're going to use this tool more and more, I think we have to look at that.
Well, there's that option, or the other option too is to have it for term in Brinsley and then another term in Lurie.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And keeping at least one in Park Hill. I think one should stay here. There's a lot of traffic goes through here to Grand Bend for sure.
Legitimate point. Legitimate point. Counselor Irwin.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 2 questions. The first is, and it follows my colleague's question. Do we really want to remove some signs from some areas? I'm looking specifically at Elsa Craig, where we have northbound sign, percentage of vehicles respecting the speed limit, 14%. And westbound, percentage of vehicles respecting the speed limit, 16%. Do we really want to remove signs from those areas? Or do we want to add additional signs? I'll let other councilors speak to other areas. That's my first question. So is this the time to make a motion to perhaps purchase additional signs for areas? And then I have a second follow-up.
Okay, so I think the one, Counselor Canellis made a point to first he brought up, and council's wish, like to take out all the signs out of Park Hill. I agree that doesn't seem right either. If we can somehow change that schedule until, if council decides for more signs, they don't happen tomorrow either. They're not a long time, but they still don't happen in a day. And I think maybe we're compromised to Councilor Keogh's point of school zones. There's been some great points brought up to this, but there is only so many. So council may have to look at that. I think Councilor Keogh, and then Councilor Irwin, I'll come back to you.
I just wanted to add to that. I was just focusing on the mobile
Yeah.
Radar that we had around. I found it to be quite effective when it was working. And
Right, I agree, because it was nice to move around. Councilor Irwin, you're second.
Thank you, Your Worship. This relates back to the point I made at the previous council meeting around community safety zones, reducing speed limits to 40 and doubling fines for speeders. Strikes me that I suggested Queen Street through Elsa Craig. I think other streets in our community may benefit from being community safety zones. lowering the speed limit to 40 and doubling the fines. And we certainly have a lot of evidence in front of us that people are not respecting speed limits. School is back. As we know, certain corridors are where our school bus loads, not just where they unload, but they load on busy streets. So I'm wondering how council would feel about further examination of community safety zones in other parts of our community, lowering speed limits to 40 and doubling fines.
So let's come back to that in other business, that part of it, all right? Let's stay with the signs here on this report. Okay, that's Councillor Daigle. Do you have?
I agree that Park Hill should have signs in it. We have approximately 3 schools that need it. I would like to put forward a motion. It's not a big dollar item, considering some of the things we do, that we look at getting 3 new signs in. Yes. Mobile ones.
Well, you're not talking with the trailers, you're talking just mobile that you can just, because you can bolt them and unbolt them.
Post to post.
Like, yeah, from post to post, because the trailers ended up, I think, way back then it was 16,000 or something. So 3 new signs, you're saying? You seconding that? Seconded by Councillor Nerda. Discussion on that? In favor? Carried. Okay. Yes,
Just for a point of clarification.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Just for a point of clarification, was that investigating purchasing 3 or purchasing 3?
It's purchasing it, not investigating, correct? It was purchasing. Yeah. Yeah. Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like, are we thinking of purchasing, or is this something that next year's budget committee will put it in and get it next year?
No, the motion was to purchase them,
Before that,
correct? I don't want to put. Okay. Jaden?
Thank you, through you. So maybe just another clarification on the current locations, because there will be a little bit of time to get these new signs. Did we want to maybe take one of the other locations to have in Park Hill in the short term, or do we want to stick with the proposed locations and then look at Park Hill with, once we get the new signs in?
I think we should, go ahead, Councillor Daigle, and then.
I would go ahead with my idea is to go ahead with the purchase. Maybe by the next council meeting, you'll know how long they tell you it's going to be for that. Then we can decide if we need to change the locations.
So you're saying leave them, your thoughts are leave them right where they are right now? The way it's proposed? Okay, Councillor Nerda.
I would have to agree with Councillor Daigle on that.
Okay,
Sorry, did you say as is or proposed?
As is
Thank you.
proposed.
As is or proposed? So make the changes.
No, keep them
So
where they.
as is, not proposed. Thank you.
wow, that. Okay, let's come back to order. Alan. All right. Let's come back to order. Alan.
Thank you, Your Worship. So considering that we're leaving that as is, as a consensus opinion there, that then we'll just need a resolution to receive the report for information as well.
Councillor Irwin, Councillor Daigle. All in favor? Carried. Okay, our next one is committee reports. That's all our department reports. Committee reports, Lake Huron Primary.
The iPad is starting to light up with pending schedules for the fall. So when I have a date, I'll pass it on to council.
Okay, thank you. ABCA,
September 13th, and we'll be announcing the agricultural representative at that time.
thank you. Blue Water Recycling.
Just forwarded an email that I received today with regards to a new CAO for Blue Water Recycling. It will be on our upcoming our upcoming agenda next meeting, so it can be made public.
And Francis has been there a long time.
According to the email, 35 years, yes, so.
Because I do believe he's been the only head of that rate since its inception, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Economic development.
Nothing new to report, but we are looking at setting up a meeting for Aline to come and present her findings for the economic development strategic plan.
Okay, thank you. Local school advisory.
Thank you, Your Worship. Given the findings from the last meeting, we're going to be holding our next meeting early October when the new school councils are in place. But it is my personal mission within the next week to 10 days to visit each principal of each of the schools in our community.
Rec committee.
Just getting confirmation on the date of the meeting,
Okay.
but I think it's the 24th, yes.
Policy committee, we do have a recommended motion from the policy committee.
I think the clerk most likely will speak to that one.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. There's a recommendation from the committee that the Director of Corporate Services clerk be appointed a bylaw officer.
Any questions on that? Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? Carried. And tell Ashley happy birthday. But no, I was just saying that's it. No, sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off. Fire committee.
Yes, we had a meeting last night and I'd like to share with council that Station Chief Jones produced a pamphlet or some information on the things that have to happen, the things you have to do, and all the things you go through when you lose a house or a structure of some kind. It's very thorough. It's very good. There's some room for improvement, but yeah, we're talking about making a pamphlet, something a little more attractive to the community. And I think council will have an opportunity to see it within a couple of weeks, I believe. Okay. The other part of that too is that the chief brought forward a request to have Lambton Shores amend the agreement to increase the coverage by 9 residences along Center Road. That would be from Townsend Line north to the bridge and from Townsend Line towards Wyatt Road. Yes,
15 properties.
9 residences, he said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, 15 properties, but
It's
9
15,
residents.
yeah.
Right,
residential buildings, yes.
right. Because there was no charge for agricultural buildings, correct?
That is correct.
That's my understanding. Okay, and the CEO will have a comment to make under item 9. I'm reminding you now. When we get to 9. Other
Okay.
business.
Okay. Anything else for the fire committee?
No.
Don't mean to interrupt, but we did have a motion come out of that meeting that we'd like to have considered.
Can you help me refresh my memory? I don't have it on my notes.
So the fire committee considered an application for the a grant application for the Elsa Craig Fire Station, and they're going to make application, and they need a motion from council to support the application.
Item 9 says so right here.
Okay, sorry. That is the one that we need to speak to now, I think.
All right. Did you guys understand that?
Go ahead. Carol.
Repeat it.
So there is a grant application out right now available to fire departments. Looking at doing a equipment purchase. We are looking to do some enhancements to the fire station in Elsa Craig. Some of the costs associated with that refurbishment and enhancement can be covered through this grant. So the application is due tomorrow. So the application is going to be submitted by the chief, and we just need authorization to do so. The total amount of the grant is on the sheet of paper in front of the counselor. If you could just tell me the amount, I don't recall.
Be happy to do that. It's $19,138.
Thank you. And it's 100% grant for some of the equipment and washer and dryer for the station.
Thank you for your assistance.
Any questions on that? Any questions on, no? Make a motion to apply? Seconded by Councillor Nerda. In favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, budget committee, nothing there other than we're talking about having a pre-budget meeting on the 20,
The 25th in the morning.
okay. Right? That's just a pre-budget meeting to get started. Community Development Fund Committee, nothing there. Aqua Advisory,
No, your worship, nothing.
Middlesex County OPP.
Nothing, your mayor, but they promised they're gonna try to have a meeting in September, so.
Okay,
If I can add, there's some significant discussions with regards to insurance and so on. So that's been what the holdup has been.
okay. Correspondence, Middlesex County highlights. Councilor Canales.
I'm so excited to see that the roundabout is a go. It'll be the first one in Middlesex County, will it not?
It will. That is on a county road. That's correct.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I'm really happy to see that.
Okay. It is, it's been a while getting to it. Okay, anything else on that? Nothing else. City of Pembroke support of rehab facility. Sterling Rodden, updating public sector salary disclosure practices.
Your worship, I would like our council to support this motion. I think these figures are way out of date. You know, the $100,000 club, there's been a lot of inflation since 1996. So I would like to support this and bring it and modernize the salary disclosure numbers.
Okay, is there a seconder to support that? Counselor Daigle, in favor? Opposed? It is carried to support it, 5-2. 5-2.
Oh, no, what's the number they're talking about, salary? I don't see it.
Well,
It's on the report. Go ahead.
my understanding with inflation would be around 150 to 157,000 today. And that's more realistic, relating back to the original number from 1996, which was 100,000.
Okay. Town of Bradford. Don't know what they want. Just says blank. So just a little advertising there for town of Bradford. Town of South Bruce Peninsula, ineligible sources recycling. Okay, Township of Terrace Bay, letter of support, for NOMA resolution, support for OINP. Receive and file. Other and urgent business. The first one I have is Brandon. I believe you're going to speak to the play school.
Yeah, so Mayor Ropp, members of council, we did receive a request from the Elsa Craig Play School looking to extend their hours, which will result in amending their current lease agreement. The extension they're looking for is currently they are 8 a.m. till 12 p.m. They're looking to do 2 3-hour sessions with a slight lunch in between to extend it to a 6-hour day. That will require amending the agreement. If council is happy with that, I will execute that.
Is that because the number of kids that are registering?
Yes, it's due to the number of kids as well as I guess they feel that it's just better for the parents. Maybe some of the parents who are there would have requested it. They're going basically as long as the ministry allows them. After 6 hours, it really becomes a lot more regulations around it.
Okay.
That they don't want to get into. So they're capping at 6.
Okay. Questions, comments? On that? On this report? Well, it's just on this report.
Does that require a motion, your worship?
The
Clerk says yes.
Yeah,
So I would move support.
okay, move to support, seconded by Councilor Nerda. Question on it, go ahead.
Does this impact any other uses of our building? Of our facility?
Through the mayor to the councillor, no, it will not. It will still stay in line with their current agreement, which would state that if we have an event come in, such as a funeral or something, we will notify them and they will take their gym activities outside, stuff like that. So.
Vote all in favor? Carried, thank you. Now, other items, other business? Go ahead now.
Thank you. I would like Jaden just to give us an update. I checked in with Jaden at the beginning prior to the meeting, just to give us a little update on the desledging process at the lagoon. I go by there and I see there's a lot of stuff happening there, and I think it might be a point of interest for all of us.
Jaden.
Sure, thank you for that question and through your worship. So Last week, we did start the clean out of the south cell of the lagoon with GFL Environmental as the contractor, and we have our engineer RV Anderson out on site with them. So they've been going for a couple days now, and things are going well. I just got an update before the meeting of where we're at. And they have removed approximately around 8,600 cubic meters of material at an average density of about 10% solids. So that equates to about 860 dry tons of material out of the lagoon. So I think we're looking to remove approximately 4,000 dry tons in total. So a good start so far to the project. It initially started, we had to treat the south cell of the lagoon in order to discharge the water cap to get the water level lowered down. So in partnership with Aqua, we got that done. And yeah, things are going well. So we're just hoping for the weather to cooperate. I think we were looking at 4 to 5 weeks originally. I think they're trying to shorten up that timeline a little bit, but part of it's going to be weather dependent.
Just one question I have for you, Jane. Where's the material going?
Through the mayor. So the contractor is responsible for lining up with farmers to get the appropriate plans in place through the OMAFRA, the ministry. And there's some locations just west down Park Hill Drive within our municipality. There's one on Grand Bend Road, just at Moray on the north side of Grand Bend Road within our municipality. And I believe there's another location within Lambton Shores, just at the end of Park Hill Drive there. So they're trying to keep it pretty local to keep the trucking costs down, but those are some of the locations.
Now, is it similar to animal nutrients where you're only allowed to put so many gallons or tons per acre?
Through the mayor, yes. It's the same process, the same stringent requirements through the Nutrient Management Act, and they have to have all those plans in place that says how much.
Councillor Irwin.
Thank you, Worship. Return to the question I raised earlier, suggested come under other business, and that is community safety zones, exploration of it in a variety of locations in our community. It seems we have a lot of speeders. As I noted at the last council meeting, there's several communities that have 40 speed limits in their main streets, and they're also county roads. So, I mean, I don't think that's an issue. It's a county road, but it's still 40. And I'm wondering how council feels about exploration of expanding that investigation into what streets we could potentially make community safety zones.
He's asking council on that. I would say, I think the first step would be to explore it. I'm good with to explore it. Also, that conversation would have to happen with the county as well, of course. And I think at this point, I would like to see it explored better to know, and I'd like to know from some communities that have done it, what's been the impact? Has it been a positive impact or really no change? And so that's my own feeling. And I don't know, what's the rest of the council feel like?
Probably should incorporate OPP on that if it is a county road. To see what their take is on it, like if this is going to add to policing costs with having a cruiser sitting there or random checks or anything like that.
I think if we had a cruiser sitting there, we could leave it at 50.
Well,
But that is the issue, right? And they can only go so far, but that is a good point. Should the OPP be talked to as well as part of that exploration? Councillor Daigle.
Two things. I'd like to go back to the sewage lagoons. You said 4,000 cubic meters. Is that both cells or just the one they're working on?
Through the mayor, so it was 4,000 dry tons, which is a lot more cubic meters. And that's just for the south cell.
And just a second to say that the water line got started in Elsa Craig today, much to the chagrin of many people.
Yeah, so let's come back to this R zone. I mean, is council in favor of exploring that on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
Strathroy has a couple of zones, 40. And I like what someone was saying about enforcement, because the Strathroy Caradoc Police do enforce that rigorously. They really do. You know, because I take that road very cautiously, because you know they're going to get you, especially when school, when the kids are coming and going to school. So I would support it here. I would. But again, it's all relative to enforcement.
And I think it's appropriate to find out what ones are the right roads,
Mhm.
not just randomly say do here or there, I think. Councillor Irwin.
I have additional, if I may.
Yep.
Outside of this subject. So two
Oh.
questions for the
Oh,
director.
well, let's just come, are we,
We should have a motion, your worship, if that's what.
yes, and who's going to do it? Like, who's going to lead this? That's the other question I would have with staff.
I'm looking at Director of Infrastructure regarding this. Is this something, would it be yourself that would lead this?
Yeah, through the mayor, I think it was just the last meeting, we were talking about community safety zones and we committed to bring a report back. So
Right.
we're working on that and I'm just hearing more feedback and things that we can include. I think it was a good point to loop in OPP and have them involved in this.
County
this
as
kind
well,
of,
yeah.
you know, bring a good information report back to council and then maybe get some direction from there.
I think Councillor Canals made a great point about the school zones.
Mhm.
Certainly the school zones is a focus. So we need a motion for that. So moved by Councillor Irwin, seconded by Councillor Daigle, all in. Oh, to explore going forward with this,
An expansion.
an expansion of it, yes. Okay, in favor, carried. Okay, now, you had something else.
Thank you, your worship. Two questions for the Director of Infrastructure. Is there any update on the potential walkway status? We heard today that we started the water line in Elsa Craig. There's potential walkway as part of that project. Is there any update on the status of that?
Through the mayor, I don't have a very detailed update yet. We just got some preliminary feedback from our engineering consultant and we are still working on that. So it's still being developed and I'm looking to bring back more information to council. Okay.
Well, I want to say that there's not much engineering to this. Like, it's kind of, they're putting reclaimed asphalt there instead of topsoil. So I'm hoping that,
Yeah, and through the mayor, you know, it could be something as simple as that. It's just, I think we have to look at it from the safety perspective and the liability perspective in what we put out there. I think, you know, we're looking at potentially not having it, you know, signed so much as a walking path, but just a gravel shoulder that provides that and whatever makes sense for us. From the pedestrian and traffic safety perspective and
all
liability
right,
perspective.
because it is nice and wide there, so there is room to have grass in between. So that's a nice part of that area. Okay, you had another item and then I want to move to the next.
Thank you, your worship. Dreaded question. Do we have any update on the deficiencies of the water tower? Have they been addressed yet?
Through the mayor. With respect to the water tower, most of the deficiencies have been addressed. There are some final items, really just three things. There were some landscaping deficiencies, just some of those plantings that did not survive. So we just have to have those replanted. We're continuing to have issues with the motion sensors, unfortunately, because that one's that's been going on for quite a while. Unfortunately, that still hasn't been resolved, but it's on our list to be resolved. We've recently just had a little bit of issues with the bulk water stations. We want to make sure that gets addressed prior to the end of the warranty, which is this October, so next month. And the last thing, not so much a deficiency, but something that has to be completed is the end of warranty inspection. And that is where the tank is emptied out and inspected, the interior lining of the tank. That has to happen. And last update we got from the contractor is that they're scheduling that for early October.
Okay, all right. Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I'm glad we were talking about roads and asphalt. Has there been any update with regards to Main Street, Park Hill out here at the stoplight with this deterioration of the asphalt? I see there's some paint marks on it, but where are we at moving forward on that?
Yeah, through the mayor. The last thing that's happened with Park Hill Main Street with the deficient asphalt has been the contractor had between the general contractor and the paving subcontractor, they had an engineering consultant come in and complete boreholes throughout the limits of the project. And they're trying to assess the nature of the failed asphalt and what's causing it. And we haven't got the results from that engineering review back yet. We have asked for a couple updates from the contractors, but haven't got an update yet. So municipalities and counties' expectations still that this deficiency has to be addressed prior to the end of this month. We want to get it done before the weather gets worse, we get out of paving weather. So that's the current status.
Go ahead.
Just one more. I'll just offer some assistance to that calibration of the water tower out there. If you'd like to keep me in the loop on that, as you and I have been out there before with a water tank with graduations on it, so we can keep an eye on it. Because I do think that it has lost its calibration or something has in fact changed on it.
Are you talking on the filling station?
On the bulk dispenser at the
Okay.
water tower?
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other business? Jaden, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you. A couple of the things I was going to bring up, like the lagoon and Councillor Daigle mentioned Queen Street Water Main Project. Have already been talked about, but there's a few items I wanted to give council an update on.
Yep.
The first one being a manure spill. So on Thursday last week, we were notified about from a resident in Park Hill about dead fish and foul smelling water in the Cameron Gillies drain, which runs through Park Hill. So we did promptly investigate the situation and found several dead fish at one location. And so then we followed the municipal drain upstream on Elgin Field Road, Center Road, Nairn Road, and Springbank Road to observe water conditions. And in some locations, we found the water to be polluted or contaminated, and found some dead fish in those locations upstream as well, and in other locations where the water was clear. So we reported the situation to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks Spills Action Center, and they sent a staff person out Thursday and Friday. And since then, they've been managing the situation. And it's our understanding that they have made contact with the property owner, who they believe is responsible for the manure spill. We think it was caused by the heavy downpour last Thursday, the rain event, which caused manure to run off into the drain. So yeah, it's been in the ministry's hands, and they've been working with the property owner to get it all cleaned up. And just wanted to make sure council had that information. Just a couple other things. I wanted to give a quick update on our water meter replacement program. So we have now replaced over 100 water meters that were malfunctioning or not functioning at all. And that's just over half of the total water meters for replacement. And we'll be sending out a second notice to the properties that haven't reached out to book an appointment yet in the near future to get those appointments booked. Another thing, as Councillor Daigle mentioned, we did have the Queen Street Water Main Project start today, with work commencing in the intersection of Alice Craig Main Street and Queen Street. The contractor is currently working in the north portion of the intersection, and they want to get the water main constructed through that intersection while maintaining traffic. So it's staged to keep traffic flowing through there. They had originally planned to start in late September, but we learned last week that they had crew availability. So we did our best to get some notices out to the public through our app and social media, and we hand delivered some notices as well to the area that's affected. Yeah, those are all the updates. I can answer any questions.
Okay, any questions on that? Councillor Irwin?
Maybe through your worship on the last point, is there adequate signage up for the construction of the water main in that area? It seemed like there wasn't adequate signage up coming into the village, and I don't know if that's being addressed by the contractor or not.
Through the mayor, I did have a discussion with the mayor on this as well earlier. I think I agree that we could have some more early advanced signage. The contractor did submit their traffic control plans last week that shows the signage layout, and it should be installed in accordance with that. But we will have a closer look at that with the comparing to the Ontario traffic manual to make sure it's appropriate signage.
Okay. Any other business? Counselor Irwin.
I apologize, I have a lot to say this evening. I have one question for the Director of Community Services. We have talked briefly about this. There is some confusion by some of our residents who are doing programming where we ask for donations for programming and they think we've instilled user fees.
So through the mayor to the counselor, there are a couple programs that have equipment based with them. We have talked about putting in a donation system. That hasn't been formalized yet. I've spoke with the volunteers who are running them about keeping it free, but trying to find some way to fund equipment replacement. One of the popular ones is pickleball. Pickleball paddles have costs, the lines have costs, the nets have costs. Trying to have some type of system to replace those without forcing anyone to pay any certain amount if whatever they feel that is worth to them. But certainly it is not a necessity.
Through your worship, I understand that. We had that discussion. That being said, the email that went out, participants feel that there is now a user fee and they have to pay unless they can't pay. And frankly, for the cost of a few nets and paddles, what we're saving with the new relationship with Damien, I think we better find a different way to secure donations, I would suggest. I don't know if the Recreation Committee had a chance to discuss this or not.
Certainly that can be added to our agenda later this month.
Okay. So you put it on the rec committee agenda, chat about it at that? Okay. All right. Any other business? Okay, deferred items, communication, including the county. I just want to say that Councillor Cornelison is really excited that there's a roundabout going up. Reading of the bylaws, please.
Thank you, your worship. That bylaws 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, and 78 be read first and second time.
Councillor Daigle, Councillor Irwin, all in favor? Third and final, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, Councillor Keogh, all in favor?
Before we consider the final, there's a different list of bylaws.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, we have a different list of bylaws. All right, go ahead. Sorry, do the third and final.
Thank you, your worship. So as a clarification, the third and finals will be 72, 73, 74, 75, 77, and 78.
Third and final, Councillor Keogh and Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. I do need a motion to go into closed and to receive information under the following exception. Municipal Act 239, 1B and D. Moved by Councillor Daigle and Councillor Nerda. Sorry. All in favor?